it's Amy with Our Mommy Life, and it is my birth story and 1 week update of my newborn baby. So if you're interested and you want to hear a pretty detailed birth story with some video and pictures, keep on watching. I will try to keep this as quick as possible, but it is going to be detailed, so strap in for a pretty long video. It all started, I guess I would say, about when I was 38 weeks pregnant, and I went to I've been having contractions for like 2-3 weeks before I've given birth, and it was not fun at all, like heavy duty contractions, and I had a lot of false labor and thought it was time to go, but each time that I was like, okay, we're gonna go to the hospital, it would just fizzle out and be nothing. So at 38 weeks at one of my appointments, I was 1 centimeter dilated, and they decided to do the sweep the membranes, which can help bring on labor. I was just really over being pregnant at that point. As you know from a lot of my updates, I did not really enjoy my pregnancy, and a lot of it, I would say 75% of it, was pretty tough on me. So I was ready to have this baby. Anything was going to be better than being pregnant. So she swept my membranes, and right after that I lost my mucus plug, so I thought, okay, like, things are rolling, it's gonna happen. Unfortunately, the days kept ticking by and nothing was happening. I was really upset and I was really disappointed each day, but I kept on trucking along. My mom came it was 40 weeks, it was on the 27th of January, and she was a big help to me, so she could help get Tristan to school, and so I didn't have to do like a ton of walking, because at this point it was completely painful to walk. I was having extreme pain, and the ligaments and the muscles in the groin area were like totally cramping up, and I wouldn't be able to walk. So it was impossible to do the school run. So I was really happy to have my mom come and help me out with that. So the days kept ticking by, and then finally 40 weeks came, and I was totally over it. I wanted this baby out no matter what. And let's see, on the 3rd, which was of February, I was like, okay, I want this baby to be born on the 4th. We gotta try something. And my aunt had posted this fun dancing video of an OBGYN that does dancing to induce labor. And I was like, at this point, I will try anything. So on the 3rd, which was a Saturday afternoon, me, Tristan, Sebastian, my mom, we all had this really fun, we turned on the music on the TV and just danced for like 3 hours and had like this massive dance party in the afternoon. Tristan, of course, enjoyed it. And at that point, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't stand, I can't do anything, everything hurt. And I was like, well, I'm gonna have contractions forever until they induce me on my birthday. But luckily, I sat down, and then all of a sudden, like, things were happening, and I started having pretty decent contractions again. But I went to bed thinking, okay, this is just gonna be another night of contractions, that nothing happens, and throughout the night it was pretty intense. And then I woke up in the morning and they were still happening, and I was afraid that I wouldn't know real labor from false labor, because, you know, I've been dealing with it for weeks on end, and I really didn't know if I would know the time to go to the hospital. But I did know it was in the morning, and I was trying to shower and get ready, and I just like couldn't breathe through the contractions, and they were deep contractions, and I didn't really know what front contractions felt like, because with Tristan, of course I was induced, but I really had major back labor, and it just felt like all of my labor was in my back instead of in the, like, where the contractions wrap around your belly and like kind of, I felt like, go deep. So this was a new experience for me, and I was like, okay, we need to get our stuff and go to the hospital. And luckily I had my mom here that could watch Tristan. And so the morning of the 4th, we left here at 9:30 a.m. and we got to the hospital at 10. And the hospital was like labor and delivery unit was really busy. There was a bunch of people waiting just to like get into labor and delivery, so I was a bit worried, but so far I was the one that was like in the most pain, it seemed like. So they took me and they did like the pre-check examination to know what's going on, if we really need to admit you to labor and delivery. And when they checked, I was only 2 centimeters, but I was having some serious hardcore contractions that were really close together, so they didn't want to risk it and send me home. So they decided to keep me and admitted me, but they didn't have any like monitoring rooms open or available yet. So they said, okay, you know, we can't give you any medicine or pain relieving anything until you're in a room, so why don't you go in the shower and on the yoga ball and try to see if that can relieve some discomfort until we can get you into a room. So that's what we did. And in this little shower room, it was Sebastian sitting on a chair awkwardly while I bounced on a yoga ball in the shower. And actually it felt really like having the hot water exactly on the pain felt good, and then bouncing on a yoga ball actually feels good when you're having some pretty bad contractions. And it was nice to have my husband there so that he could talk to me through some of the really deep ones that I just needed to take my mind off of. So I was in the shower for about an hour, and then I was like, okay, I just can't do this anymore. So we went and checked to see if there's anything available, and they were like, okay, just give us 10 minutes. And so I was walking the halls trying to, you know, walk this baby out. And then finally a room opened up for monitoring, not labor and delivery room, but like a monitoring room to like see how I progress and things like that. And you only get transferred to labor and delivery room when you're gonna have your epidural or it's time to push. So we went into this monitoring room, I would say around 12 or so. And at that time, I was having a lot of pain, so they were able to give me a morphine drip, and I included some video, I'll include some video clips here of me getting my, like I sound very high, but it felt really good to have the morphine drip to ease some of the pain in between the contractions. It didn't ease the pain of contractions, just in between, and kind of settled me so that I could not lose my mind. So I will insert that now. So it is 12:45 and I just got morphine 10 minutes ago, and I'm so happy because it was so painful, but I'm not dilated enough to go further, but just wanted to update everybody. Once I had the morphine drip, as you can see, I felt pretty good. It felt good. It gave me a chance. So while I was hooked up to that, I was able to relax and kind of drift in and out of sleep. And Sebastian just read on his book, and we were there until, I would say, about 5 p.m. is when I noticed that like there was no last effects of the morphine, and it was straight extreme contractions that were painful, like painful. And at this point I was like, oh my gosh, I have to get in, like I have to get something more serious like an epidural, because I couldn't do it. They checked me and I was still 2 centimeters, and the midwives could not believe what was happening. They said they monitored me the whole time, and the contractions were so intense and right next to each other, and they weren't dilating me at all, like not working at all, and everybody couldn't believe it. They literally couldn't believe it. And they said, you're having really intense contractions, so they said, okay, we need to get you an epidural soon, even though you're not at 3 centimeters yet. But by the time the labor and delivery room opened up and I got into it, they did check, and I was at 3 finally. And that was around 8 p.m., 8:30. Got the epidural at 8:50, which was, it's funny how you have a child and then the second one comes around and it's like you forgot everything that was happening, or like how to do everything. And I was really nervous about getting the epidural because it's like going into your spine. It's really serious and you have to be very still even though you're having intense contractions. So it was really nice. This time they let my husband stay in there while I got the epidural, and he was able to like hold my hand and calm me down. And so once the epidural was in, I was very relieved, very, very relieved, and that was at 8:50. And then about like an hour after, I was noticing, so the epidural was just working on my left side and I could feel all of the contractions on my right side. So all they did was have me turn over onto my right side, and that was I guess I was just laying on it wrong. And so then I wasn't feeling anything from the waist down, which was great. And I wasn't feeling the contractions, and that was really super great. So then continuing on, they then broke my water and they said, okay, you're gonna like progress. Once we break your water, you're gonna dilate, you're gonna be good. And I was like, I don't know, I feel like my body only responds to Pitocin. So they were like, no, trust us. And I was like, okay. So they broke my water and nothing was happening. I was still 3 centimeters. So finally at 10:20 is when they gave me the Pitocin, and I was just at 3 centimeters still at 10:20 p.m. And then at 5:20, that was at 10:20 was the Pitocin, and then they came and checked me at 11:20, and I was finally at 5 centimeters, and so my body was like, woohoo! It was working. I was excited. I didn't feel it. I could just rest there. Sebastian was sleeping, trying to get some last minute snoozes in, and I was just sitting there. It's funny, just kind of hanging out. And then at around midnight, I was really hoping I was gonna have a baby born on the 4th. I just have this weird thing that I like even numbers. So the nurse came in to check me at midnight, and I think she was assuming I'd be at like maybe 8 centimeters, kind of thing like that. And then she goes, oh, you're fully dilated, you're good to go. And I feel the head. And so I was so excited, and she had me do a little baby push to see if it was really time and I could push. And he was right there, and he came a little more, and it was really great. And so she said, okay, I'm gonna start getting everything ready. And so she called in another nurse, and they started getting the room ready and the stirrups ready. And it was crazy because it was just I knew it was coming, but when she actually said, okay, it's baby time, I freaked out, and I was like, I'm not ready. This whole time I've been ready until they actually told me. And so Seb woke up and he came over, he's like, oh, it's time. And we were both really freaking out, even though we knew it was coming. So then it was time they mentally prepared me, and they said, you're just gonna do a couple pushes. And they were like, do you remember how to push? And it was really cool because this time, giving birth versus other times, I didn't feel the contractions and anything, but I felt like I had more control over my body, even though I was still numb down there. And with Tristan, they'd give me so much pain medication and stuff, I was just so delirious that like I felt like, I did give birth to him, but I just didn't feel I was in control. And this time it just felt so easy. So that was good. And then, so it was just about 7 minutes of pushing, It was just a couple pushes, and little Ashton Remy was born at 12:20 a.m. on the 5th of February. And he came out screaming, like lungs screaming, and they put him on me, and he was just screaming, and it was just such a magical moment, and Sebastian actually captured it, and I will insert that right here for you. It's a very special moment that I get to share with you guys.
Que papa puisse te voir. Hey. Tu veux même? Est-ce que maman veut le bébé?
As you can see, he came out and he was super blue purple, and they placed him on my chest, and it was really great that I got to experience that, because with Tristan he didn't scream coming out and they had to take him away to check on everything. So this time it was really a magical moment that I could feel him on my chest, and in the video you could see I'm just really, it's like a scared shock, but it was a beautiful moment in my head. But it was just so overwhelming. And they then took him to get measured and everything, and he was 3.4 kilos and 49 centimeters long. So average, he was smaller than Tristan, but Tristan also was way overdue baby, so he had about a week and a half plus on Ashton. And he was born, and they took him, and then after we go to a labor recovery room. Here in France you do an hour in labor recovery, and of course Ashton was screaming his head off. He screamed from the moment he came out till 5 in the morning. And it was really funny because in labor and recovery you do your skin to skin and feeding, and he was just screaming the whole time. And the lady next to me, she had a little girl, and the little girl was just sweet as can be and so quiet and being just peaceful, and I felt really bad that my poor child, I couldn't do anything, and he's just screaming, and I said, oh great, you know, I've got a screamer, and he's gonna be crazy like his big brother. But he's a pretty tranquil baby right now. And so I spent an hour there, and then we went upstairs to our room and then got comfortable. And of course Ashton still screamed the whole time. Well, he had to go to the nurse's station where they did some other testing and then delivered him to us. But I got my food and I got to eat. Of course it's like 2 in the morning at that point, and I told, when I was in labor and recovery, I told Sebastian, I said, oh, I just need to eat, and you know, I need like an hour of sleep because I had been going for a while now. And he's like, oh, don't worry, no problem. But guess who actually got to sleep first? Wonder who that was. It was Sebastian, snoring on the pull-out couch, and while I was just sitting there with the baby, and I was like, oh, this is not fair. But he made up for it later, and so that was good. And we spent, so I spent Monday, Tuesday, and then discharged on Wednesday. And little Ashton was born into a wonderful snowstorm here in Paris, and it does not snow here in Paris, so the whole Paris was like shut down, and mass chaos was going on. But it was really beautiful to sit there and watch a white first couple days for little Ashton's life. And we were a bit worried being discharged on Wednesday because we were afraid the roads were going to be too bad to go home or they wouldn't discharge us, but it ended up working out and we were able to drive home. It is like, not only is the drive home the scariest moment of your life because you're like precious cargo, everything has to be safe, you drive 5 miles an hour all the way home, but and then add in like ice and snow. Oh my gosh, it was the scariest 10 minutes of my life. And so we finally got home and got comfortable, and it's been great. I was so excited to get home from the hospital. It's just not fun being poked and prodded all night and not being able to leave the room, and it's just, I did not like being at the hospital. So I was excited to get home. And so now let's move into an update on how little Ashton is. I'm excited to announce that Ashton is actually a calm, sweet baby. compared to the first couple weeks of Tristan's life, he just screamed all the time. And it's really nice and relieving to have a baby that doesn't do that all the time. He does cry, of course, for when he's hungry or when he wants to sleep or, you know, just like that. But other than that, he's very calm and he'll just lay there kind of awake. And the sleeping so far is going okay. We have a co-sleeper and he's sleeping in that or the rock and play. The rock and play saves my life. I knew it would be crucial, but it's working out really well for us at the moment. As far as feeding goes, that's where we're kind of hitting a bump in the road. He's not gaining weight, so we are being followed by a pediatrician right now and trying to figure out what to do and what the problem is. If it's me not producing enough milk or because I'm trying to breastfeed. So right now I'm on a strict pumping schedule and I'm supplementing with some formula at the moment. I really want to get back to just breastfeeding, but at the moment we need to find out exactly how much food is going into him because he lost 10% of his weight at the hospital, and then leaving the hospital he has not gained anything, like at all. He stayed at that weight that he left the hospital at. So it's a bit worrisome because they should be gaining at least something. He's not losing it, so that's good, but something's wrong. So right now we're figuring out if it's the problem of he's just not getting enough, it's not filling enough, if maybe it's absorbing and it's not absorbing enough, and what's going on, and we're having no poops and the life of a newborn, and every little thing is kind of scary. So that is the update on his health. Other than that, everything is good. Everything checks out. He's meeting his milestones, and the doctor says he's a strong baby and he can like really lift his neck up. But other than that, we're cuddling, and my mom is here. She leaves soon at the end of this week, and then my husband will take his paternity leave here in France, or at least with his company. He gets 11 days off to spend with us, so that's really great. So he's gonna take that after my mom leaves. And then once that happens, it's back to real life and me solo with 2 kids. So we shall see how that goes. And then as far as me, I'm so happy to not be pregnant. I feel like even being sleep deprived and some other things, anything is better than being pregnant. I just feel amazing. I will insert some. So I took some photos of when I was in the hospital of what my body looked like, and then I will show you what my body looks like 1 week after. And I think that's interesting because not everybody's body is the same, and everything kind of feels different and looks different, but I'm always interested to see how people look postpartum. And other than that, I feel really good. I didn't have any tearing, which was great, and it was a very good and easy delivery with no issues, and none for me right now except a little lower back pain, but I think it's just alignment getting back into place, and that's it. And I'm just so happy with my little family. And I hope you have enjoyed hearing about my birth, and I can't wait to update you guys along the way of this newborn phase, and how I want to do a video of how it feels to change from a family of 3 to a family of 4, and what the difficulties I face. And so look forward to that video. And then of course, I'll include some more pictures of baby Ashton, and that's it. So if you like this video, give it a like, share with your friends, and I will see you next time. Bye.
Tu veux plus? D'accord. Il voulait te regarder, t'as vu? Oh, salut.
Salut.
On va jouer bientôt.
Oh, stretch. Stretch, stretch, stretch. Stretch. Hey, cutie pie. You having a good nap? Yeah, it's so cute. Oh. Oh.